know, for a while I kept seeing people online complain and whine about the state of the gaming industry, saying that it is on a downhill slope, that it isn't what it used to be, Minecraft isn't fun anymore type of garbage. Whole video essays being made about it, and then the entire point comes down to, yeah, I played this game the exact same way for over a decade. It isn't fun anymore. Yeah, the door, you stupid moronic idiot. I myself would also get bored to death if I played the same game for 10 years straight. You need some variety, some fresh ideas to make the old noodle up in that thick skull of yours breathe, instead of endlessly consuming the same old slop. There's nothing wrong with a comfort game, okay? But variety is the spice of life. Thankfully though, a lot of people caught on to this in the last year or so, and they are figuring out that gaming, hey, it's actually in a pretty damn good spot at the moment if you don't just look at AAA live service schmuck. And one of these games that people really got caught on is called Mouthwash. One of my personal favorite forms of storytelling in video games is when developers take a very interactive and visual approach. Think of Inscription, the Portal games, Undertale. These games inject their narrative into its gameplay, making it part of the experience instead of having it feel like two separates. A lot of narrative-driven titles usually like to bombard you with exposition dumps explaining what happened instead of showing it, and even a lot of stories I like still do this. But when a game takes that extra step to try to combine these elements together, that's when a game's story usually shines in my eyes. And Mouthwashing does this really, and I really do mean really well, and it makes you think about the game even weeks after you've completed it. So in case you've been living under a rock, because this game is like literally everywhere for some reason, Mouthwashing is about a space delivery crew that gets stranded in space because of a quote-unquote accident, and you basically see the crew slowly deteriorate and descend into madness over the span of about 6 months. That crew consists out of 5 people: Anya, Swansea, Daisuke, Jimmy, and Curly, who are on the brink of starvation, with the only thing to feed off on being, you guessed it, mouthwash. Now, mouthwash is made out of sugar and alcohol. That's a nice balanced breakfast if I've ever seen one. It is a full-on narrative-driven game, and most gameplay elements are rather tame. It's stuff like put in a code or walk through a hallway. These type of games have gotten the reputation of being called walking simulators, think of Journey, Gris, or Sludge Life, but I think that's kinda unfair because they usually have a handful of flourishes to make them stand out. What I personally really like about the Mouthwashing are 2 main things: the artistry of scenes and the way the game presents its timeline. The story of Mouthwashing isn't told in chronological order, but rather through chapters that are played at random, some after the crash, but also a few before, and every single one of these chunks tells you around what time frame it is taking place. 3 months after the crash, 7 days before the crash, 8 hours until judgment. It makes it so that the narrative is hard to follow, and you are puzzling together in your head bit by bit of what has happened. Why did we crash? What is Swansea hiding in a utility room? What happened to Curly? Why is something as basic as sweetener locked off by most of the crew? Why are we shipping mouthwash out of all things? Like seriously, it is an endless supply of mouthwash to another planet. Why? It has a beautiful way of poking your mind with questions, and it builds it all up through thoughtful artistic scenes. An old box TV with ads you can rummage through, an endless blood ocean with emergency messages popping up around you, a vent slowly opening up with hundreds of fire exits surrounding it. Every time a new chapter starts, the game freezes for a bit and then fades to a new one color by color, making everything feel like a blur. There is a funny horse mascot. You are just waiting for that revelation, that pivotal moment that makes everything crash down, that turning point that makes it all finally make sense. And when it finally does, dude, What the fuck? This is an evil-ass game. Because Mouthwashing is very story-driven, I don't want to give too much away, because I think you should go experience it for yourself. It's 12 bucks and only 2 hours long, so if you want to know what everyone is raving about, don't let me stop you, okay? Go check out the game. There's also an achievement for doing a 360 and shooting someone, so, you know, hashtag bring back MLG. By the way, guys, you remember this video that I made where I was talking about how hard it is to make a video game, let alone a good one, and even when you put all your blood, sweat and tears into your craft, you can still end up with something rather sloppy? Well, UFO 50 said shut up, I don't want to hear it, and made 50 games. These aren't mini-games or tech demos, they are full fleshed out from top to bottom video games. And you know what is the craziest part? Every single one of them. Literally every single one is good. Again, making one game is hard. I can't even do it myself. I don't have the expertise for it. But making 50 of them is something only the most insane of us can do. It is a huge undertaking, and the amount of raw talent that is on display here is a sight to behold. I am willing to say this. UFO 50 is the single most impressive game I've ever gotten the joy of experiencing in my entire life. Yes, I mean games like The Last of Us, Team Fortress 2, Dark Souls, Stardew Valley, literally every single other successful game out there has its own aspects that makes them special. They all have that game designer's touch, but it's still just one game. They did this 50 times and hit the nail on the head perfectly every single attempt. You'd think because there are so many titles that a lot of them would be small 30-minute plays where you'd go, oh, that was cute, and forget about it 5 minutes later. But no, every single one of them has depth, and there are no do-overs. Each game is unique and can stand on its own 2 feet. Yes, some of them are weaker, like Block Koala or Planet Zoldath, which are meh, but none of them are outright bad. There are full-on 10+ hour turn-based RPGs in this collection. There is a tower defense game called Rock on Island, and it's really polished. Hyper Contender is Smash Bros with a fun twist. Campanella is this little try to complete a maze without being hit game, which is a lot of fun, but then you find out that they made a little racing spin-off game based on it, and a proper sequel that is a full-on roguelike, and then they made a third one that is a Star Fox game. What the hell? Overbold is like Isaac, Porgy is like Dave the Diver, Valgriss is like Downwell but in reverse, and Seaside Drive is also like Downwell because it is literally made by the creator of Downwell. A Tactics is peak, Bushido Ball is awesome, Mortal 2 is a lot of fun, there is a horror game, a deck builder, a Metroid game combined with VVVVV, Quibble Race is gambling where you can drug your opponent, Ninpek, Barbuta, Pin Golf, Pilot Quest, Caramel, Min and Max, Rakshasha, Real Heist. How the hell did they do it? There is so much good stuff here. It is an absolutely insane collection of games spanning dozens of genres like arcade, platformers, shooters, puzzles, and every single one of them is a blast to play. Even the ones that don't look like your cup of tea are great. Avianos was that title for me because when I booted it up for the first time and I saw this screen, I went, okay, yeah, this sucks mega balls, but then I started playing it, and I started to understand the mechanics, and I went, wait a minute. No, it's actually really good. And that's not even mentioning the style of the entire collection, which oozes a genuine love for video games. Nowadays, we are really focused on trying to make the most visually striking experiences imaginable. Bouncy animations, pretty hand-drawn art, ray tracing, 4K quality resolution. This has made a lot of games look stunning, but it has also kinda buried the art of how titles were made in the 80s and 90s. UFO 50 is a beautiful callback to those older games, and the way it plays feels like I've entered a lost art form that hasn't been touched in decades. They even went as far to restrict themselves to only using 32 colors for the entire collection and audio restrictions, meaning when there are too many sound effects playing at the same time, it will cut some of them off. You don't see this anymore. The industry has moved on from this, but it's such a neat and charming little touch. much. They restricted themselves with so many aspects. Even when it comes to the controls, it uses the D-pad and 2 buttons. That's it. If you want, you can play every single one of these games on a NES controller. But these restrictions brew innovation, and the amount of quality ideas UFO 50 has under his belt and executed flawlessly is impressive, to say the least. This title was supposed to be released in 2018, but I think the developers figured out that making 50 quality games is like really hard. But the Mad Lads did it, and holy shit, did they do it well. If you love video games, like really love video games, and you have a huge appreciation for how they are made and all the little knickknacks that go on behind the scenes, UFO 50 is a title that will stick in your mind for the remainder of your life, and it is a masterclass of video game design. The soundtrack is also almost 7 hours long, Jesus Christ. Alright, let's talk about the realest game of 2024, the cream de la crop, one of my most anticipated games of 2024. I'm of course talking about Pizza Tower 2. It's okay. I give it like a B tier, you know. This game, on the other hand, Pizza Tower, floored me when I first played it almost 2 years ago. I mean, I made 4 videos about it. It came out of nowhere, punched me in the gut and said, yeah, I'm the best game of 2023. You mad, the funny troll face? So my mind kinda exploded when I heard that a different indie studio is making a similar game, because in case you didn't know, both of these titles are inspired by Wario Land 4, and Antonblast also looked awesome and dripping with personality. I was hella excited to try it out. Then it comes out after multiple delays, and it doesn't even come close to the genius of Pizza Tower, which, to be fair, is a high-ass bar to reach. Antonblast is still a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but it has issues, like quite a few big issues that bring the entire experience down in my eyes. So in this game, you go boom through a level, breaking and exploding everything on your path, flattening enemies with your hammer, doing a bit of platforming, using some funky power-ups until you reach the end, which has a button you need to press. Once you press said button, a segment will start called Happy Hour, and a timer starts ticking down, and you have to run all the way back to the start of the level before you get consumed by a wall of fire. If this sounds familiar, well, yeah, it should, because it is literally the same concept as Pizza Tower with some tweaks. Well, okay, it's technically based on Wario Land 4, I know, but your mom, I win the argument, shut up. The core gameplay of speeding through levels and seeing everything explode into piles of unrecognizable clutter is a lot of fun, and the game's biggest strength, especially once you start to go for those perfect runs in the part-time or combo chain modes, which are hard, yes, but mastering the stage, it's just so much fun, man. And the energy of it all is just so goddamn intoxicating, with the art direction, animation work, and music really helping to amplify the chaos around you. These were the 2 aspects that I loved the most about Pizza Tower, and Antonblast delivers big time. So the game is fun. I want you to know that I think it's fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but man, it does go on to make some big missteps that I feel like were pretty easy to avoid. It's a lot of little things, little hairs in the soup, but there are so many little hairs that it does at one point ruin my appetite. These goblin enemies, for example, are the bane of my existence. The straight up platforming is too slippery for its own good. I'm looking at you, Cinnamon Springs. Bosses are visually pleasing, but a lot of them aren't that great to fight. Levels can be confusing to maneuver through. The clutter of all the crap you are destroying makes it hard to follow what the hell is even going on. Again, they are minor issues, but they do pile up. My 2 biggest problems with it though are: 1, some of the levels are simply bad. Pinball Mire especially is just a garbage unfun stage. In a game which is all about fast-paced, precise platforming, you really shouldn't add a wonky pinball level that is hard to control. It ruins the pace of the entire game. And 2, this move, The hammer jump. On its own, it's fine, it's fun to use, but the fact that it's mapped to the same button as the clutch makes me want to rip out my own lungs, because I keep doing this stupid hammer jump on accident instead of the clutch so goddamn often, and it became really frustrating. I think it's just rather poorly thought out. Eventually, I did get used to it after replaying levels, trying to go for the time trials and combo chains, but that first playthrough made me genuinely mad at times. And it's not just me, I see a lot of people continuously do this hammer jump on accident. This whole problem can be fixed if the game just lets you map the hammer jump to another button. Like, it's so simple. So let's answer the million-dollar question. Is Antonblast worth it? The simple answer would be yes. This is a solid and enjoyable platformer that the creators clearly put a lot of elbow grease into, and it shows. I mean, there is a backroom spool level. It's genius, masterpiece, and you even nuke a boss into Brazil. It's perfection. The longer answer, on the other hand, would be yes, it is good, but it has issues, some of which are fixable, but quite a few of them are baked into the game. I still think Pizza Tower is a better take on the Wario Land 4 concept by a lot, but Antonblast is good, it's fun, and I think we should still celebrate that. I know I was very critical about the game's issues, but I'm just trying to be as honest as possible without coming over as a spoiled, annoying gremlin. Look, people keep on complaining that they have nothing to play, gaming is dead, but look at the 3 titles I talked about in this video. An immersive, narrative-driven game, an insane amount of value game, which the likes I've never seen before in my life, and a solid, fine-tuned experience. Gaming is thriving, and it's not just indie stuff. I think indies are at their peak right now, for sure, but the real AAA games, not that one, are also not messing around, so you better not let me catch you complaining about Minecraft when your Steam library looks like this. What are you doing? Yeah, anyway, subscribe so I can afford rent. Thank you, goodbye!